Recently, we've seen super expensive smartphones like the Galaxy Z Fold 2 and Z Flip coming at over €1,000 with top tier chipsets, cameras and displays. On the other hand, we've seen some brilliant budget options like the Pixel 4a, which only really has the basic hardware setup. Only the things you need. The Xiaomi Mi 10T Pro is in that middle ground, but at €599, can it balance performance and price? Let's find out. Let's get the specs out of the way right off the bat because they're pretty important when talking about the Mi 10T Pro. Xiaomi has decided to include the Snapdragon 865 as opposed to the latest and greatest 865 Plus or the very popular mid-range Snapdragon 765. The latter of which has been included in some phones of this price recently. Also on board is 8GB of RAM and either 128 or 256GB of storage, a 6.67-inch Full HD Plus 144Hz IPS display, a 5000 mAh battery with 33W fast charging, and 4 total cameras. So it's a little odd because there are some super high-end features like a 108 megapixel camera and 144Hz display, but the supplementary cameras have been cut out or cut down from a premium flagship, and the display is an IPS LCD instead of a more expensive OLED. What this results in is a device that in the real world excels in areas like the camera and the display and the performance, but that doesn't go overboard and doesn't push it right to the limit, which would increase the cost naturally. And you wouldn't know that you're using a slightly cut down phone if you didn't know the specs. Most flagship details are here like a metal and glass build, crisp haptics, a super fast fingerprint scanner, fast charging, high quality stereo speakers and a high resolution pixel binned main camera sensor. Sure, wireless charging, an IP rating, a telephoto lens and an OLED panel are all missing, but they're all things that would add a lot of cost to the phone. The 144Hz IPS display, while not perfect, see that IPS shadowing, is very smooth. One of the fastest displays that I've ever used personally. It makes the phone feel super zippy, though it does take its toll on battery life. Thankfully, Xiaomi does allow you to change the refresh rate to suit your needs, and it does have some pretty handy diagrams on the screen to show you what that would look like, though personally I left it on 144Hz. And that's because this display is using adaptive sync technology, which essentially adjusts the refresh rate for the content that's on the screen. It supposedly boosts battery life, and I found battery life to be pretty good, but we can't verify just how much it does. Gaming was no issue with the Snapdragon 865, which is what you'd really expect given that this is a flagship chipset. Everything else like social media browsing, YouTube watching and Amazon shopping were all handled perfectly by the hardware available. Videos in particular were rather enjoyable thanks to those great stereo speakers, which whilst not super loud, were very full and very clear. Unfortunately, Xiaomi just missed an opportunity to launch this phone with Android 11, instead running Android 10 with MIUI 12 on top. The friendly, bubbly aesthetic isn't just a pretty face. Features like Smart Remote, Game Turbo and Xiaomi's customization features add value over stock Android. Whether you like MIUI or not is personal preference of course, but I feel like MIUI has come a long way in just the past few years. The 5000 mAh battery delivers pretty good battery life, but nothing exceptional with the screen at 144Hz, which makes sense. Unfortunately, there's no wireless charging included here, but the 33W brick included in the box does charge the phone up in under an hour, which is handy. The Mi 10T Pro's camera setup focuses its hardware on the two main cameras. The selfie shooter is a 20 megapixel punch hole affair, and the main shooter is a 108 megapixel optically stabilized unit. The additional cameras haven't quite enjoyed the same attention, as there's a 13 megapixel ultra wide and just a 5 megapixel depth sensor. Let's get to the samples. The first thing that I noticed when looking at these is that the colours look pretty neutral. Sure, they don't stand out as overly pretty colours, but they certainly look accurate. Xiaomi's noise reduction is working its magic in this photo of some canvases in a very dimly lit room. This was taken in the regular photo mode and came out surprisingly clean. In fact, the Mi 10T Pro does rather well in low light in general. Here are some photos with the night mode, some of which I took in near enough pitch black darkness, which the phone handled rather well. Selfies look pretty decent with the Mi 10T's 20 megapixel sensor as well. They are binned down to 5 megapixels, but you wouldn't really know just by looking at the photos on a phone display. There seems to be a little bit of skin smoothing, but nothing untoward. Xiaomi focused on the 8K video recording for maximum detail and steady video, which aims to replicate a gimbal with the device's main camera. Footage using 8K video looks very sharp, if a little overly so. There is a lot of contrast and not heaps of dynamic range in the 8K mode, but footage came out looking fairly smooth. In steady video, you can clearly see the digital stabilization working with the optical stabilization here, as there are a few jiggly artifacts with the software correcting itself. The video footage looks okay, but I wouldn't say that this is a gimbal-like experience. Overall, Xiaomi's done a great job at balancing high-end specs and high-end features with a decent price that doesn't push everything so far over that you can't afford it. I like the fact that they've cut down things like an OLED display and extra cameras and really focused on the important bits and really boosted the quality of those. How many phones can you say rock 144Hz screens? And how many phones can you say have 144Hz screens that cost €599? There you are. It's not a perfect phone. Of course, it doesn't have the latest and greatest chipset, the camera isn't amazing, and a lot of people will be turned off by MIUI, but it's a great deal, and I like that we're seeing more smartphones in this segment, the €599 segment, like the OnePlus 8, the Zenfone 7, and of course the Pixel 5. Maybe we'll start to see more smartphones in this category with the 765, but maybe let us know in the comments whether you'd pick a phone with a 765 or an 865, and whether you'd trade the feature set for just more raw power. Let us know in the comments. Whilst you're down there, please do hit like and subscribe to never miss a video like this one, and check out the link in the video description to the main article. I've been Ryan Thomas with Android Authority, and I'll catch you later.